Hello, 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 everyone. I am live here, hopefully on Instagram as well. We are going to make this a good one. So it's Q&A Thursday, and I'm here to answer some questions. So every Thursday, I come on and I give you, the audience, hopefully, an opportunity to ask me anything, okay? And as I said in the description that probably shows up on YouTube or Instagram, Facebook, that everything is mindset related because we don't experience life as it is, we experience everything as we are. And so how you're viewing yourself, what you're doing day to day comes back to who are you being. And so that's why I want to do this, is to come and be live and have excuse my yawn. I've been up since 5:30. I got a good night's sleep, but the yawns come anyway, so that's okay though. It's all part of it. Hey, Mr. Jackson, the investor. So it is Q&A day, and we have the opportunity to ask questions. So you type it in the chat. What's up, Cynthia? How are you? It's good to see you. So please type in the chat a question that you have for me, the mindset coach. And like I said, it could be about anything. Could be about business, could be about life, could be about personal. The only thing is I can't bring you on to the live because I'm live on several platforms. I'm live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I think, yes, those are the ones. So listen, type a question in the chat. I want to answer it. Cynthia, please give me a question. And I'm glad to hear that you're great. I see that you've been going live consistently. You always invite several people to the lives, and I'm amongst those people, I'm assuming. So I appreciate that. Just rarely on Instagram in that instance, but I'm glad that you can stop in for a few moments. So please type a question in the chat if you have a question. I always like to start off with one. And so one of the questions that I have gotten that I talk about a lot is sort of like, how do I sort of stay the course of wanting something or pursuing something when I'm not seeing results? When I'm not seeing results. And the question is, when we say we're not seeing results, where are we putting our power, right? Where are you placing your power? In those instances, first of all, I totally understand the idea of like, I want to see some results, some kind of effect of all this work, this energy, or even if I am doing what you're telling me to do, Bryn, this mindset work, this visualization, this sort of believing in this end, but where is it? When's it going to show up? What time? I want a guaranteed result like Amazon. I want a tracking number, and I want it now, right? And the thing is that when you are looking for anything outside of yourself, you're putting your power outside of yourself. So you make yourself powerless and you make everything outside of you powerful. And we don't want to do that. So we want to reclaim our power. And since we don't experience reality as it is, we experience it as we are. Who are you being? Are you being the one that has, the Bible says, pray believing that you hath, or are you being the one that hath not, right? And if you go into the story of the talents, right, where the master gave all of his people, some gold talents or something, and then he went ahead and one guy was like, I buried it and I saved it for you. And it was like, well, you're supposed to make something of that, like to multiply it, right? And so if anything, it's more like planting the seed in you and letting it grow. So we want to look at, who are you being? Are you being the one that hath or the one that hath not? And the reason I brought up that story is that the one that had, didn't do anything with it. It was taken away from him and it was given to the one who hath. So you want to identify as the one that hath because you will get more, right? You will have the receiving, but You're not waiting for anything outside of you to happen. And I see your question, Cynthia, and I'm definitely going to answer it. Okay. Also, by the way, I do a masterclass every Tuesday where I teach how to have more, be more, how to have more and do more through being more. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and type the word masterclass in the chat right now or webinar, and it'll send you a DM with the link to register. So it doesn't cost you anything. It's a free masterclass, and it doesn't sign you up by saying webinar, but it actually puts you in gives you an opportunity to get the link instead of you having to go to my bio. So please type webinar or masterclass, whichever word appeals to you, in the chat right now so that you can get that link, and also help me out by testing it to make sure it works. So please do that for me if you don't mind. Okay, so that is the first thing, is you're not looking for anything to change outside of you. You're looking for you to make a shift internally. And the good thing is, for those of you that said you want it now, everything that you own in consciousness is actually an instant, you were trying to read behind the comments. Okay. Oh yeah, I know. It's kind of, that's the thing about this. Like, since I'm live on multiple platforms and I'm in 16:9, anything that I put on the screen, I have to make incredibly small to fit into the Instagram window. So then it doesn't fit, in the other windows, or it's too small. But anyway, thank you for typing that, Cynthia. I appreciate you for testing it, and let me know if you get that DM. Okay, so that's why everything's instant, because time internally and in the time of spirituality, in the realm of spirituality, there is no time. So everything is instant, right? The minute you say it, it's done, right? It says, ask and ye shall receive. It does not say ask and there has to be a certain gestation period or whatever. So it's already done. Like, a woman is pregnant from the moment of conception. The baby itself takes 9 minutes to fully come to fruition in the physical, but there is a baby, it's already done. Conception is done instantly, right? Sperm, egg, boom, done. Life is created, right? So same thing, your desire and your assumption that you are already having it. So in your asking, and your desire is your tracking number. Your desire is your tracking number. So those of you that want Amazon tracking numbers, your desire is your tracking number. So that's it, okay? All right, so that's kind of a general idea. There's a much deeper thing, and I think, the best thing to do is to go ahead and coach with me so I can take you through the steps of really knowing what it is to be. But I hope that was a good answer to a question that I gave myself. Okay, now let's answer, and let me know if you have any more questions about that. I'm happy for you to push back or anything like that. So far, I don't think there's a way. In fact, Cynthia, since I'm live on here, if you can also test, I'm about to answer your question about the podcast. If you could test and see if you can request to be on my live. I don't think you'll be able to do it, but I still want you to see if you can. Okay, no DM yet. Okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know. I'm checking because I know webinar works for sure, but we'll check on masterclass. Let me see. Okay. All right, so it doesn't have a thing where you can request to be a part of my live? Okay, because I was curious when you go live through the desktop if it gives you that option. Okay, let me see if it sends you a message. I'm just checking. In the general, yeah, it doesn't. Okay, cool. So I don't know why it's not sending you that, because it should. So I will check it again and see new features, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now, so hello, how you doing? Love is always the subject. It's so good to see you. The request button isn't there. So you can't request to be a part of the live because it's not existent. Okay, cool. Hey, love is always the subject. It's Camila or Karima. I know it starts with a K. Just help me out with that name. Okay, let's go back to Cynthia's question. All right. So I'm adding it to the broadcast so that you can kind of see it. It'll show up in just a second. But the question that you gave me, Cynthia, was, what is the best way to approach people to appear on my podcast? So the first thing is I would say there's a step before the action, okay? So we're typically looking for the action. What do I need to do to get people on my podcast? What do I need to do to get people to want to be on my podcast? So first, you need to decide, and I know you may think you've done this, but just hear me out, that you have the best podcast ever. Like my podcast, everyone wants to be on my podcast. I have the top sports podcast in the business, and everyone wants to be on it. And everyone I ask is happy to receive, to be on, to even receive the request, and they're so honored, and they happily accept. So that is the first thing I would do before I took any action whatsoever. In fact, I might even dwell in that realm longer than I would dwell in the, well, who do I need to ask to get on the podcast? Because if you go that way around, then all of a sudden ideas will come to you, because now you're already at the end of having the most successful podcast that everyone wants to be on. And so as the person who already knows that everybody wants to be on their podcast, you're going to think and operate differently than one who wants to build a podcast that everyone wants to be on and hoping that someone says yes, which comes from a very different energy. Okay? So I would do that first. Then I would just see what ideas came to me while I was walking, while I was in the shower, while I was doing anything else. And then it was just something occurred to you and was like, ask this person. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'll ask that person. And then another thing will come to you. Ask that person. And then another thing will come to you. But when you live in the end of what you desire, then you get a different inspiration or idea versus the one who is operating as here when they want to be there. Okay, I'll put that closer because you may not be able to see that on Instagram Live. And you're like, well, what do I need to do to close the gap, right? Here's the gap. Instead of, I'm already here, I'm already there, right? So there, I'm getting different ideas that's going to pull me here. Does that make sense? Instead of me trying to figure out how do I get there with these two fixed states. And the more I identify, I'll put it this way, as someone who does not have the finish line always moves with me. Does that make sense? So in other words, the more I identify as here, then nothing can change because this is my permanent state. But if I identify as here, the top space, it's going to attract or pull me to my physical self to be in one with that, because now I'm already in alignment, so my reality has to adjust. Okay, I hope that made sense, but that's what I would do. Instead of the other way around, which everyone focus on. Who do I need to ask? Sure, I can give you a ton of strategies, but those strategies are still rooted in I don't have the best podcast. Does that make sense? Instead, you let your action be inspired by your new identity. Okay, because again, the doing springs from the being. So I'm changing my tactic for advice because I'm already the person that everybody wants to ask, everybody wants to talk to. So I give the best advice. Okay, so therefore I'm living what I'm telling you, and I hope that was helpful. If you're still here, love is always the subject, or the other person that was here earlier, I think it was Jackson, please type a question in the chat. It's Q&A day. I will be here as long as I have questions. But my answer is going to be something in the realm of being. Who are you being? Now, while we're waiting for somebody to type a question, I will say this. If you're not sure who you're being, check your thoughts and your actions, and they'll tell you who you're being, because you're assuming something about yourself, the world, business, podcasting for Cynthia's case, or even success. You may have an assumption that is incongruent with your desire. So for example, I desire to be $100,000 a month, but then my assumption is that nobody is signing up for my course, so therefore I can't have. So see, I'm incongruent. I'm saying my desire is to be $100,000 coach, right, a month, but then my assumption is nobody wants to coach with me because I don't currently have a client. You see, so I'm already incongruent. Instead of assuming everybody wants to coach with me in absence of any physical evidence, because again, we don't experience reality as it is, we experience reality as we are. So who am I being? So if I'm more, yeah, you could try a webinar too. You could try it. I don't know why it didn't come, because yesterday somebody did do it. I think she typed masterclass. I don't know. But yeah, see if, that is weird that it didn't fire. So yeah, type the word webinar too. See if that one works, and then I'll have to check on masterclass. Because as far as I know, it should work. But the fact that you're not getting it is crazy to me. So I don't know. It could just be a delay and you might get it after. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But if you get two messages, just know that they're both working. But right now I'm checking mine and it didn't send, so I've got to check my mini chat, but I can't check it now. No, no, no. Don't type it in different tenses. I have put in the keyword in caps, in lowercase and with the capital W. And masterclass, the only thing I think I didn't do for masterclass was one girl typed it two different words. She did master in class, and that was the only one I didn't do. And so I was like, oh, I didn't think of that one. So I have to add that as a trigger. But one girl the other day did it and she got the DM. So why you're not getting it is beyond me. But oh, yours might actually go to my primary box because you are in my primary box. But no, it's not coming. Okay, cool. Because it depends on what box you're in. But anyway, hey, Taryn, how are you? Welcome. It's Q&A day, and we're doing a live. Taryn's in South Africa, Cynthia. Say hi to Cynthia. Taryn, say hi to each other. Taryn's actually my virtual assistant. She's more than that. She's an amazing person, but she also works with me. So I'm very grateful for Taryn. Okay, so it's Q&A day. All you have to do is type a question in the chat, and I'm happy to answer it. Cynthia already typed a question. Cynthia, if nobody else wants to type another question, you can go again. You don't got to wait for me, okay? So feel free to type another question in there, but love is always the subject. If you're here, because unfortunately, I don't know who the people are that are on the live. That's the only other caveat. And so I can't introduce this third person that says they're on the live. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, it doesn't tell me. So I don't know if you're there. So maybe give me a reaction, like a thumbs up or a heart or something, so I know you're over there. But it doesn't tell me. That's one thing I would like them to change, is just like how many people are watching on this platform, on this platform. That would be nice so I could address them. But yeah, it's okay. At least Instagram tells you when people come in, who's coming in and all that. But then it's also kind of a dependency, right? And then you're just like, oh, it says 3 right now. And then all of a sudden it'll say 0. And I'll be like, everybody left, right? So it can be great to know. It can also be great to not know. So they're both equally good. It's just depending on how, again, I perceive it more than it is about the number, right? So I prefer to talk to people, of course, but it's more about this content that we're making more than it is about the other. Okay, so anyway, type a question in the chat. Everything is mindset related. It could be about your kids. It could be, hey, his pretty girl, how are you? It's good to see you. So all we have to do is type a question in the chat and I'm happy to answer it. Okay. And by the way, if you're getting value from this live, feel free to invite some folks that maybe need some help or whatever the case is. So we've already talked about who are you being, right? And so Cynthia has the best sports podcast on the internet and everyone wants to be on it. And it's easy for her to get guests because they always say yes. Oh, I love that. I love that rhyme, right? It's easy for me to get guests because they always say yes, right? Right before we make sales calls, like let's say I have an appointment with you, Cynthia, or they tell us that we should do sort of like a visualization, like a pregame of, and not pregame in the sense of going out, but a pregame of like seeing this person saying yes, needing your services, whatever the case is, before you get on the call. So you're mentally primed for the best outcome versus some of us, maybe because we've been shot down so many times, might say no, right? You can use whatever I give you. Maybe we've had so many no's that we're sort of like, oh, or we've had people that couldn't afford our services. And so when you have enough exposure of the same type of results, that is another example of who are you being. Are you identifying with the result or are you identifying as the source? So I listened to a video this morning that talked about being the source or the seeker. So when you're the seeker, you're sort of always identifying as wanting something but not having it, right? When you're the source, you're knowing that you already are it and there's nothing lacking, nothing missing. So if I get on the call and the client says no, or the prospect says no, or they say they can't afford it, I don't decide that that's the truth of the world, which is, oh, these are things that one could take. Oh, maybe my price is too high. Maybe people don't really like my services. Maybe I'm not good at what I do. These are all options that your mind may offer you, but you're the source, and so you decide. Is that what I want? I always look at it as a buffet. If you're going down an all-you-can-eat buffet, inevitably there will be things on this buffet you do not want to eat, partake in, etc. That does not mean that you should just completely leave the buffet and be like, this is a crappy buffet, right? Just because they have macaroni salad or cream corn or something you don't like, that doesn't mean that you just completely wash the whole buffet. They do have things you do like, so choose from what you like and skip over what you don't. But I'm only going to identify with that which affirms who I know myself to be, and anything contrary to that, I just know that's an option, and I choose not to put it on my plate or I'm not going to internalize it or identify with it. Does that make sense? Put a 1 if that made any sense, what I just said, because I don't know if I've ever said it that way before. Okay? So that was good. But yeah, so you kind of do like a pre-thing. So if you did decide, like, I'm going to take some sort of action, I'm going to take some sort of thing, thank you for the ones, Taryn and Cynthia. I appreciate you. So anyway, nobody has typed a question in. So does anybody else have any? Oh, what's up, Mr. Jackson, the investor? I'm glad you're still here. It's good to see you. So just type a question in the chat. Even if you're not sure it's related to me, it could be for a business coach. You could, well, I don't know, this might be relationship rate. Everything comes down to who you're being. So I can answer it, even though you might think, I don't know, is this really a question for her? Yes, it's a question for me, because it's something we could talk about. Now, could somebody else possibly answer it better for you? Possibly, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask it. So any question you have, don't be afraid to ask it. In the meantime, in between time, I am going to make up another question while I'm waiting for you guys to ask the question. Okay, what if I want to experience a different version of someone in my life? Okay, so for example, I may have a friend or a coworker or a loved one that I very much like, and or dislike, I don't know. And what they're giving me is just like this energy that I don't like, or they're not giving me the energy I want. Like, in other words, maybe I like this person and they're not showing that they like me, or maybe I dislike this person, but I still got to see him every day. What do I do, And so the first thing is, who are you being? Again, the source or the seeker. So one, some of us are, the way that we've been advised would be to distance yourself from that person. If you don't like them, just cut them out of your life. Maybe avoid them at all costs, right? Now, similar to what I said earlier about Cynthia's podcast, we want to decide what type of interactions do we have with people. Everybody, so I'll tell you some things that I say. Everybody loves me. People love being around me. They're drawn to me. When I'm not around, they miss me. My presence is calming and peaceful for people. They're just, there's something about me that people just love all the time, right? Now, you're saying, but Bryn, like, everybody doesn't love you, right? Like, that can't be possible. Or probably if you're watching this, you're like, that's true. I do love her. Yeah, I do find her presence calming. Either way, right? But the point of the fact is, I've decided it. I didn't have anyone tell me that. I didn't have people come first. I first decided that. And then the evidence started coming, right? Because signs follow, they do not precede. So follow means after you've declared it, right? Let there be light, and there was. It wasn't there was light, and then God said, let there be light. Are we clear? Did you understand that? Let there be light, and there was. I declared it, and then there it was. Now, internally, it's true, because I am my own source of reality. So there's already been a shift. That's my reality. Everybody loves me, right? Now, maybe I encounter this person and they don't reflect love, right? Now, I can take that and decide. So for example, I was at a training recently, and there's one person there that I have a certain type of energy with, right? And I've decided that this person loves me, that we get along, that we have a great relationship, instead of what I would do in the past, which is like, I don't know what their problem is. I guess, hey, what's up, McCoy? It's good to see you. Or in the past, I would just be like, yeah, I don't know, that person and me, we just don't jive. So I'm just gonna, like, steer clear of them. I'm gonna make friends with everybody else. I'm just not gonna be cool with them. So it feels, there's nothing wrong with choice B, but I've decided that I'm the one. What I noticed was I was the one that was keeping this rift alive, because that person never came to me and said, something about you I don't totally love. And they never said that. I made an assumption that we had energy, and then I got to experience the reality of that. Right? And so now if I make an assumption that we got good vibes, that everything's good between us, and then I get to experience that reality. Does that make sense? So if you have someone you like who ain't giving you the energy that you desire, just assume, without needing anything to change, that, hey, what's up, Jay Phillips? How you doing? Without assuming that, without needing them to do anything different, and just like, yeah, everybody loves me. Come on. Like for example, some of you know that I date women. And so in the past, right, I have felt that I always had to do the pursuing. I had to be the one that was like, I had to holler, or I had to be the one that, try to get the date, right? And instead, I've decided, wait, no, I want to be pursued. Every time I watch a rom-com or some kind of movie, I want to be the girl that's chosen, chased after, the one that they come back and surprise you because they didn't go on the bus or the train or the plane because, how could they? How could they leave me, right? Instead of me being the one that's doing the chasing and the pursuing and whatever. Okay? So how do I do that? I have to change the way I see myself first. It's not that I tell people, hey, everybody, I want to be the one pursued. I want to be the one asked out. I want to be the one that, whatever. It's just that I decide that that's who I am, and then I get those results. Right? Now, when those results show up, I'm not attached to, because inside I'm already fulfilled, right? I already have a cell phone, so I don't feel the need to always say, please give me a cell phone, because I already have the cell phone. So if I own it in consciousness internally, there's nothing more that I need to do. And maybe if I feel inspired, kind of going back to what I said earlier to Cynthia, to affirm, to remind myself that's who I am, that's okay. Now, does that mean I'm always positive and every time I see somebody I think is cute or whatever that I'm so confident and I'm perfect? No. It just means that I remind myself that when the fear comes up, I see it. I might even experience a little bit of it, but I don't identify with it. And I remind myself who I really am, regardless of or despite the evidence. It's sort of like what they say about courage, right? It isn't the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. So in other words, I've chosen to be this person in spite of any absence, right? Because fear is just an absence. It's literally a lack. It's literally a made up thing. It's an assumption. So what if we made an assumption the other way? False evidence appearing real. So I'm about, and if we want to call it false, even though we're the evidence, then we could say, okay, well, here's my evidence. I'm my own evidence. I'm amazing. People love me. Everywhere I go, the most beautiful people, because another belief that you might have, put this if you've ever had this, and I know Taryn's married if she's still here, and I think Cynthia's single. I don't know your situation, Mr. Jackson and his pretty girl, but I think you're in a relationship. I had a call with you not too long ago, but let's assume that, put a 1 in the chat if you've ever had this, where you felt like the only people that liked you were the people you didn't like. Like you felt like people did holler, but they were the people that you didn't want. You were like, well, of course they hit on me because I don't want them, right? But that hot person over there, that Adonis, that goddess, that beautiful person, that person don't want me, just the one that I don't want, right? So, right. Okay, cool. Thank you, Cynthia, for your honesty. So we want to be clear that that is why we're getting those results, because we're very clear on that. Like, we feel like we have evidence. The case is, we made a verdict. We slammed our gavel and we're like, yep, that's what happens. Every time I like somebody, they're not interested in me. But if I don't like that person, I don't want that person, they're all into me. Okay. So stop. One, do I want that to be true? No, I do not. Okay, great. So we got to shift it. Everybody I think is attractive equally finds me attractive and they take action for us to get together. Does that make sense? That's a different affirmation, belief, assertion, assumption, okay? Now, here's the thing about belief. It takes a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. So while that sounds simple, it's like, well, I don't believe it yet. I don't need you to believe it. I just need you to be it. Okay. And then be it is just owning in consciousness. Does that make sense? So you're going to make that shift. It doesn't matter. And here's the other thing I'm going to say, since we're on the subject of relationships, etc., you don't have to be any thinner, younger, hotter, richer, whatever, whatever you think is why people aren't dating you, that's why they're not dating you. You're right. But do you want to be right? Or do you want to be happy? So don't be like, well, it's because I got to lose some weight. I got to lose some weight. That's why I ain't got no relationship. I got to get some more money. I got to get my life together, and then maybe I'll be a good prospect for somebody. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's a lot like when you're qualified. Like I'm a coach. But I got to get certifications. I got to get a higher thing because that's why people aren't hiring. Like if I go into all my calls, okay, exactly. Now, you say that, Cynthia, and I don't need you to believe it. I just need you to keep saying it. And the best example I gave recently on a live was when you were a baby and people called you Cynthia, since I know Cynthia's here because she's typing on my chat, not to say that there's no one else here, but when you were a baby and your parents named you Cynthia, you did not know your name was Cynthia, much like your dog or whatever. So when they called you Cynthia over and over and over again, and you then just realize I'm Cynthia. That's who Cynthia is. I'm Cynthia, right? They're like, what's your name? Cynthia. Like you could barely say it. And then eventually you figure out that's your name. And I know you have dogs, Cynthia, so same thing. They figure it out because over repetition. So it's the same thing. So we can assert in a second, I'm the best, I'm dope, I'm awesome. Of course, everybody would want to date me. But sometimes we do that, like we say it, but we're like, yeah, but I'm not going to keep saying that because that sounds cocky, or I don't believe that stuff or whatever, right? Because you believe what you've been repeating over and over and over again, which is I ain't got no man, I ain't got no woman, I ain't got nobody, I'm whatever. So I'm saying, what are we going to repeat now so that we begin to identify with it, right? So that eventually like, that's me. So at first I might be saying it, but I don't know that's me. But eventually I'm going to be like, that's me because I know it. I feel it in my bones, okay? So that's how that works. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, that's it. It's like, yeah, when I said it the first time, I didn't believe it. When I said it the second time, I didn't believe it. But by the time I got to the 100th and 20th time, I was like, you can't take this from me. This is true now. This is my truth. This is who I really am. I'm not worried about anybody out there. I'm not even worried about this person right now because I'm attracting a version of who I've been being. And so now I've chosen to shift that identity so I can have a different reality. Okay? And that's it. And so while I'm making the shift instantly, the world is recalibrating to my new identity. How long that takes, when it shows up, I don't really care because if I feel good inside, then the outside eventually will reflect. Okay? So we don't really much care for all the rest of it. Yes, exactly. It's the same answer for everything, right? I know the answers seem to be about the podcast, but you can apply it in any relationship. It can even be with your fitness, right? Everybody says you got to eat a certain type of food. You got to exercise a certain type of way, and you got to, deprive yourself of certain things. What if you decided, since you make the rules and you are your own reality, that you could eat, and I'm just making this as an example. This is not advice, medical advice or health advice, right? I'm like, I could eat cake every day and I still lose weight. Again, repetition over and over and over again. But what happens? Because of your conditioning from the world where you've heard over and over and over again that cake is bad for you, sugar, fat, whatever, you say over and over and over and over and over again that when you eat cake, if you're being honest with yourself, even though you love the cake, you feel like you shouldn't be eating it. Okay? Some of us feel like we shouldn't be eating the cake while we're eating the cake. We feel bad, or we tell people, yeah, I had cake yesterday, so I got to work extra on the treadmill. I got to go extra hard this week. I saw a video of a guy who ate cookies. Then he looked up how many calories it was, and he had to run, I think, near 8 miles to run off one cookie or something like that, or whatever. And I was like, yeah, no, but that is his belief and his approach if you're focused on the calories and all that. But that's the thing. That's why everybody who applies something that they strongly believe in, they get results. And why other people who try to apply what they told them sometimes get results and sometimes don't. Okay? Sometimes get results and sometimes don't because they're not 100% locked in on the belief train or the, I don't know, right? But most of us have heard, and I got your question, Jackson. I'm going to answer it in just 2.2 seconds. Most of us are needing to overcome our conditioning of all the times we heard that you shouldn't eat cake. Or cake is special occasion food, but it ain't everyday food. Or sweets or fats or fried foods or whatever, right? But you can change your little relationship. What's up, Latoya? I think I love my kids. It's good to see you, young lady. But that's the way. And hey, role model tie. I think that's it. I don't know how to say that better, but you got it. Okay, cool. So hopefully that makes sense, but it applies to everything. So in other words, now, absence of evidence, right? We're not judging after appearances. So I said I could eat whatever I want, and, I didn't see any changes after I said that for a week. We're not looking for change outside of ourselves. We're just maintaining through repetition our new identity as many times as we have to return to it until it feels like it's solid within us, like our name. Like nobody can tell you your name ain't your name. I need you to have that new identity like nobody can tell you you're not that. Okay? All right, cool. So Jackson put a question on the screen. He put a question in the chat, and I want to make sure I add it to the broadcast. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not, but I'm also going to read it. Why is it hard to change a 9-to-5 mindset to an entrepreneur mindset? This is one of those situations where I kind of wish I could talk to Jackson, but that word hard is interesting, right? And, my coach, Marquel, he says something called choose your hard. And, when I heard him say it the first time, I'm like, first of all, I don't want hard to even be on the menu, right? Like, I'm looking for simple, easy, flow, grace, right? I'm not going for hard. But what's interesting, though, is when I give you this prescription, what I've been saying to Miss Cynthia and others, when I say, do this, people say, but it's hard to do that. But what's interesting is that what you're doing right now is hard, takes effort, takes time, takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, it feels like. And so my question is, if you've never thought there's got to be an easier way, then why, when you give another way and people are like, well, that's hard. Like, I can't deny my reality. I need to see it before I can believe it. And it's like, what I'm asking you to do to me seems simpler. But you're like, but then what? I'm just supposed to sit here and wait for people to be on my podcast? And it's like, well, no, not exactly. But it is sort of a choose your heart because you're deciding that something is hard. So why is it hard to change a 9-to-5 mindset to an entrepreneur mindset? Well, it depends, right? So I'm assuming you mean, you have to type for me, Jackson, but is it about the fact that you get paid every 2 weeks and with entrepreneur life, you're not going to get a guaranteed paycheck? Is that what it is? Is it the idea that I only have to work 9 to 5 and Monday through Friday versus entrepreneurs who say you got to hustle and grind 7 days a week from sun up to sundown? You have to be more specific because I'm curious as to what the hesitancy would be because the shift is instant. If you just decide, if you say I'm an entrepreneur, right, and I got this funder which could be your 9 to 5, right? That funds my business, that is investing. I got this investor that is investing in my business. Then I feel like you made the shift instantly. So it's not hard to make the shift. It's hard for you maybe to maintain the shift. So in consciousness, or because you're looking for something to change outside of you, I'm assuming. But because I can't talk to you, I have to make a lot of assumptions, okay? But I think the biggest thing that most people come up against is a little bit of that whole like, well, but I'm not going to get paid. How do I know when the money's going to come? And so the idea is security. What was it? Marquel gave us a quote at our last CEO camp, and it was, security is the lowest form of happiness. I can't remember who he said it, but security is the lowest form of happiness. Like, I'm just trying to go for security. And if you go for Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Security is at the bottom. You got to have your basic needs met for you to even be able to go up to self-actualization. So if you can't provide food for yourself, shelter, or safety, those three things, then I shouldn't be trying to have conversations. It'd be like me going out and teaching this to a homeless person that is sleeping on the sidewalk, that doesn't have food, shelter, or safety, right? And then being like, yo, you could change your whole life. It's like, right now, the best thing I could do for that person is just give them some food, give them some money, give them, a place, find a place for them to stay, because those basic needs need to be met before you go to the higher forms of the actual, self-actualization is at the top of the pyramid. So when we're talking about be your best self, it's not great a conversation when it's that. So if your basic thing is, how do I pay my rent if I become an entrepreneur, then yeah, you're gonna have a hard time, because you're more focused on the idea that it might not work out. And so I would say, don't go into entrepreneurship, because you're worried about failure before you even start. So who are you being? You're being somebody who could fail. You're being someone who's more rooted in failure than you are in success. Now, I'm not saying there is no risk, but if you're certain, you have a certainty that you will be successful no matter what it looks like on the outside, then you go back to like a Kobe Mamba mentality, which is failure doesn't exist. Because failure only exists if I stop, if I identify with it, if I make it real, then that's failure. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be mistakes, mishaps. I don't even like the term setback, because there's no going backwards. There's only forwards. There's only now. And so I don't really understand that term, even though I used to, right? We're like, man, I feel like I go 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. You can't go backwards. Once you know a thing, you can't unknow it. So it's like, it's like when I was a child, I spoke as a child, but then once I became knowing about that, now it's like something that I can't ignore, right? So I used to be someone that liked to complain and vent, and I liked my 9 to 5 and felt like I was safe and secure, but you couldn't pay me to take a 9 to 5 now. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. Like, what do you mean I can't pay you? Okay. But I think the most important thing, and I know you're driving, so it's okay if you can't type more, Jackson, but I do want you to think about that, right? What is it that you're struggling with? And if it's that you're really just wanting to be rooted in security, who decides you're secure anyway? Who decides you're safe, right? I'm sitting in my house right now on this live stream, but no one has guaranteed me safety other than my own assurance that I'm always safe, that things always work out for me, that everything's working together for my best and highest good, that all is well right where I am. I'm always in the right place at the right time, doing exactly what I should be doing. And everything I endeavor in is successful, profitable, abundant, all that. So once I've decided all those things, then I don't, when my mind wants to offer, yeah, but someone could come in your house right now and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nah, I don't choose that option. I don't choose that identity. I gave a good example. I had an epiphany. I went to Rome this year. I mean, not Rome. I keep saying Rome, Italy, because this particular epiphany was in Italy, not in Rome. I mean, yes, Rome is in Italy, but I was driving in the Amalfi Coast. So I was driving from Naples to the Amalfi Coast. And there were these signs that said rocks falling, like falling rock or whatever the case is. And people had already told me about all the windy roads, But then there was also these signs, right? And there's this feeling of I have no control of whether a rock is going to fall from that cliff and fall onto my car. And so my mind started to go on a little bit of a journey of, oh my gosh, like, I could be doing everything right, driving good, but I can't control that. But here's the thing, it's just an option, a suggestion, an opportunity. You know why that sign's there? Because a rock did fall. That's why. Not because rocks always fall on and could fall at any moment on you. Does that make sense? So decide that stuff doesn't happen to me. I can't speak for anyone else, but I don't choose that on that buffet I was talking about. So I identify as someone who's always safe. Always safe. So I'm not concerned about any out of the blue calamity situation that I can't control. Now, I'm not saying that I'm physically trying to control whether the rock falls. I'm just saying that's not a reality, because the more I push against, oh, I hope that doesn't happen to me, I'm actually making it a part of my awareness. I'm actually making it more a part of me, because now I'm identifying with it as an option. So I'm just encouraging you to not identify with it. Does that make sense? To not identify with it. So that's it. So it's like, I'm going to be successful. And yeah, I'm a 9-to-5er, but that 9-to-5er, and first of all, I'm not identifying as a 9-to-5er or an entrepreneur. I'm Bryn, who happens to endeavor in my own business, or happens to endeavor in employment at a company who sets my hours from 9 to 5, right? And whatever. I ran into my gate. I'm feeling a little bit of a knock there on my head. But anyway, so you see what I'm saying? So like, who are you? Well, I'm Jackson. I am amazing. I am successful in whatever I do. If you plug me into whatever you plug me into, it lights up, because that's what happens. I'm the light. And so the light shall be where I focus the light. So I'm cool, and there can't be light where you're not being. Okay, so if you're not identifying as the entrepreneur or as the success, then there can't be light there, because you haven't gone to the identity of it. So it's going to seem dark, it's going to seem unknown, but you have to decide that the destination is assured, right? I think Taryn, if she's still here, said something about the word destiny this morning. Your destiny is based on your desire. Your desire and your destiny are linked. So once you have a desire, the destiny is assured. So if your desire, in Cynthia's case, is to have an amazing podcast, okay, then your destiny is assured for that, because that desire was given you. Taryn doesn't happen to want a podcast that I'm aware of. So her destiny is not to be a podcaster, because she wasn't given that desire. Does that make sense? And if you did want a podcast, Taryn, of course, erase that. But you know what I'm saying? So that's how that works. So this idea of destiny and fate, those are ideas that were made up by man, but your desire is telling you you're meant to experience it, because the desire was given you, right? Cynthia happens to be different than me, and so how she chooses to go about her life, her desires are different. Cynthia has never maybe wanted to be a mindset coach, and so she's not doing lives about mindset. That's okay. That doesn't mean she doesn't care about mindset, doesn't like mindset, but that's not where she's led. But that desire wasn't given her. And when I say given, I mean your free will is to choose from the buffet, not to decide, not to say like, oh, because I used to believe when this idea of like predestination, like, oh, I was like, this is my life. I was born poor. I'm going to die poor, because some people are born in the house of the good and some people are born in the house of the bad, right? Or the not so great, or whatever the case is. And that's just not true, right? But it feels like that sometimes, because you're like, man, some people get all the breaks. I'm like, yeah, and if you poll those people, they believe they get all the breaks. They're just like, everything works for them, right? And so what would prevent you from identifying as that? Other than the fact that you're like, well, I don't have evidence that I get all the breaks, so I can't say that. Okay, well, you just made that as a rule. And I don't care what Joe Bob to your left and, Jim Stevens to your right says. What do you want to be true? Who cares what they think? Like, you can't just say that, dude. Like, that's not true for you. No, that's not your truth for me. My truth is, but da 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 da. You don't get to tell me what my truth is. You can say whatever you want while you're observing my reality because you're not, but you have no power here, no dominion here because I am the source of all things in my life. Okay. So that's what I mean by like, so that's why I'm not a big fan of words like destiny and fate and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that they can't make sense because technically your fate and your destiny is already written based on the desires that you have. And so that's telling you everything. And then now you know, like, well, it's already done. So, like it says, I'll go ahead and prepare a place for you. So it's already done. So I'm here. God's like, I'm here. Come here, be with me, right? You come to the Father, and now you're together. You're identifying it as, and then all of a sudden, all this great stuff starts moving in the universe to make it happen for you in reality while you're already being it in consciousness, because consciousness has to be matched. Has to be matched. So if you say you want money, but you're conscious of being poor, you can't have money because your consciousness is identifying with your circumstance. Anyway, I hope that all made sense. I've said a lot of stuff. I hope that you guys got value from this time with me. Any other questions? Jackson, I hope that gave you good answers. I know that there was a lot more that we could have gone down. But again, guys, if you are interested, the best way to get to the root of everything is to schedule a consultation with me. And let's, and then like Marquel asked this question all the time. And he said, like, let's say you're telling him all your stuff. And he's like, let me ask you something. Why aren't we working together? So the question is, why aren't we working together? Because I want to get you everything you've ever desired and give you a system to have systematic success on, like predictable success. And the only way to do that is for you to go ahead and follow. I mean, that's not the only way, but a great way is to follow this system that I've laid out because I've been able to reverse engineer all the good stuff that's happened to me. And so anyway, I have a masterclass next week. All you got to do is type the word masterclass or webinar in the chat. I tested it last week, but you know what? It might be because I'm doing this on the desktop, Cynthia. And so that might be the problem is that the ManyChat doesn't work if you do it because that live I believe I did it directly on Instagram. So we'll have to check that because that might be the issue. So, it just occurred to me because all answers come to me. Yeah, so type masterclass. It's next Tuesday. Even if you don't get the DM, just know you go to brynndrescher.com/webinar. Sign up for the masterclass. It's 6 p.m. Eastern next week, Tuesday, and 3 p.m. Pacific, okay? 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can go just brynndrescher.com/webinar. That's it, okay? Somebody type that in the chat so that I don't have to. But brynndrescher.com/webinar. If you don't get the link, the idea was to make it easier. But since I'm doing this on my desktop, that's good to know that this doesn't work with that because it should be instant. Yes. So the fact that it's not working is telling me that it does not work on desktop. So that's good to know. So I'll have to do some lives without going live on the other places, which is fine because honestly, thank you so much, Taryn. I appreciate you. Honestly, I can't say for certain that it makes a difference how many people attend. And plus, I can only really see the people that are on, what am I thinking? Hold on, Instagram anyway. So it's like, here, that was what I was looking for, was coming back to my page. Yeah. So it says like 0 people are watching on other platforms. So that's the thing. Like I do this to other platforms, but I might just do only Instagram and then maybe just do a general live elsewhere and try to go live on these other platforms individually because these collective lives might not be as effective to me. Okay, so brynndrescher.com/webinar. The other thing I want to ask you, for those of you that are, if you're not already following me on TikTok, please do. I want to get to 1,000 followers so I can go live over there and give some of this goodness over to TikTok since you get more organic people discovering your lives. So I would love for those of you that aren't is to follow me on TikTok, please. And with that, that's all I have, guys. I've been here for an hour. It's been so much fun. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, Jackson. And anyone else who might be watching this on the replay. Every time I do one of these lives, I just want you to know you're doing me a favor by being here, asking your questions, because every time I articulate an answer, I even get something better than I ever had before. I would love to come on your live on Wednesdays. Tell me when and where, and I'll be there. So that's it. See, look at that. Everyone always says yes when you ask, Cynthia. Look at that. It just happened. You see? And you didn't even have to be like, have some sort of selling point or anything like that. It's just a simple, of course I would be on your live. Why wouldn't I? Come on. You're Cynthia. So, but yes, every time I get a chance to say things in a way that I've never said it before. Your live is at 7:27 p.m. That's such an interesting time. Oh, okay. Wednesday at 4:27. Okay. Yes, Mr. Chess Moves. How you doing? I just realized I play pickleball at 4:27 p.m. Oh, that's so you can remember it. Okay, got it. I am usually out at the pickleball court at that time, but I can make an exception. I can go later. I just prefer to be out there early so that because I play pickleball for a couple hours. But that's usually why I don't do anything Wednesday evening. But yeah, let's schedule it for next Wednesday. It's fine. I love being out there and all that good stuff. So I'm on for 1.5 hours. Yeah, I know, but I play pickleball until like 8 o'clock, and that's like 11 o'clock your time, so that won't work. I'm there from like literally, I get there at like 3, close to 4, and then I'm there until like last night I left at 7:30. So just to give you an idea, so I'm there for like 3.5 hours, playing as many games as I can, working on my skills. So, but I love it. So, but next week I will come later. That's fine. I don't have to be the first one. It's a big up your biz where you can come in and talk about your business. Okay, cool. Well, I'll be there. I'll be there and we'll have a great conversation, Cynthia. Thank you for the invite. Please send me something like a DM to remind me. So, Taryn, if you're still here, you can put it on my calendar. Next week, 4:27. I might even do it from the pickleball court. That way I'm out there already. I might do it from my car so that I'm in the area because that's the only thing. I know. No, you didn't get the DM because, again, we've discovered that there's an issue with doing it from the live when it's the desktop live versus the mobile live. So I think that's the issue. So I'll have to contact ManyChat. It's not you. It's not you. It's me. But anyway, all right, y'all. I'm out. Thank you so much. I appreciated this. I'm going to go do some work, and I will see you later. Bye. All right, let me press the right thing here because when I try to end it the way I normally end it, it doesn't work. Hey, Kachern, how you doing? You guys are missing me. I just been live for a whole hour. I'm gone.